All right, hello. This is Josh here. I just got some cool slides here and thought I'd try and put together a little something just for fun. Um, I have several of these slides, but I'm only going to be showing a couple of them. I'm trying to not make this an extremely long one like I've done in the past. But I'm going to be looking at a few parts of the human body. I have a lot of them, but I'm just going to do a couple slides here and go over them, and maybe maybe I can try and recollect some information and just talk a little bit about what's going on in these different tissues, and maybe we can learn something. So this is actually human blood. I'm going to zoom in here in a sec, but you might be able to make it out. It's kind of a grainy appearance across the whole thing, and almost all of that is your red blood cells. And then you'll notice a lot of these areas, there's like a dark staining purple. There's different ones. And let me zoom in here and we can kind of look at them. I wish I had a pointer or something for this. I could actually point out individual cells, but unfortunately I don't. They have a special one made for microscopes on the lens, but I don't have one. So yeah, as you can see, the kind of the light reddish color there just fills the entire screen. Those are your red blood cells. They're biconcave in structure. It allows them to move and squeeze through the capillaries, which a lot of the capillaries are actually smaller than the size of the red blood cell, so it's incumbent upon them to be able to squeeze into tight spaces. It also gives it more surface area for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the tissues. Some of these red blood cells are a little bit different than the other ones. You might see where a few of them just look a bit bigger, a bit puffier. It's hard to make out, and it's hard to say exactly if they are. But those ones are what we call reticulocytes. Those are red blood cells that have just entered circulation and just not fully ready. And they stay in the blood for anywhere 24 to 48 hours before they mature into a complete red blood cell. These purple ones, right? There's a grainy purple one and a dark purple one. So the dark purple one that's just straight dark, that is most likely a lymphocyte. A T cell or a B cell or something along that nature. You really can't tell, as far as I know and what I'm learning, you can't tell for certain, at least not with this kind of a stain. But it's some type of lymphocyte, most likely. And then you'll see a lot of the tiny purple dots, especially that big cluster right there in the middle. Those are platelets, which assist in the coagulation process. So if you get a cut, that's what helps stop it. They actually come from a specific cell called a megakaryocyte in the bone marrow, which, if I get to it, I might show that actually, and we can look at that. But essentially, that big cell breaks up, and then that's where your platelets are derived from. Let me see if I can find neutrophil. I saw some, actually, that's one right there. So some of these big purple ones, you can see like the dark shape inside the lighter purple. That is what we call a PMN type of cell, or polymorphonuclear. Okay, the nucleus, that whole darker shade of purple is actually a nucleus, and it what was I getting at? So yeah, polymorphonuclear. It's not a regular nucleus. Its morphology is multiple poly. Okay, and they're always going to be shaped a little bit different. It's never the exact same. But that is a neutrophil, and neutrophils are actually the primary cell that comes into inflammation, or when you have a bacterial infection or anything that needs to be fixed, they come in and phagocytize or engulf, the harmful substance, and it gets rid of it. And actually, kind of interesting, pus. There's different forms of pus, but when you get that white pus, what's called purulent exudate, that is actually mostly neutrophil debris. They've done their job and they're destroyed, and you get that massive buildup, and it blocks a lot of the process that the inflammation is trying to utilize to cure whatever is going on in the body. Okay, so that's what pus is. Let me see if I can find anything else. I think that might be it. Platelets. There's more platelets. I'm actually surprised that there's so little platelets. It seems like there should be a lot more, but actually there's a lot more right here. Yeah, all of these dots here, purple dots. Okay. That's interesting. This one right here has like 2 sections of nucleus separated. That's interesting. Basophil. I wonder if that's what's called a basophil. They're like make up like 1% of the lymphocytes in the blood, but I'm not entirely sure on that, to be honest. So yeah, I'm gonna take this out here. That is blood. This here, and might be a little bit annoying whenever I do this. I'm sorry. Bear with me. All right, let's see what we got. Why don't... Here. I want to look at lung tissue. This is one of my favorites. Okay, back out. Okay. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, okay. A lot going on in this one. Okay. So, this is a segment of lung tissue. Sorry, my throat was having a hard time today. So all of these pockets, okay, it looks like a bunch of pockets all over with walls interdispersed throughout the entire thing. Trying to think about a good way to describe this. So imagine if you had like a big cluster of grapes and then you cut it in half, and then you just took one thin paper thin segment of that cut. That's kind of what you're looking at, except for the grapes would be hollow. So all of these segments that are white in between is actually where the air goes into, and it's called an alveoli. Okay, and then if you get a big segment of it, it's called an alveolar sac. The air goes inside, and all of the stuff that you're seeing, the walls of the alveoli, that's actually where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is happening. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Actually, let me see if I can find a couple things to show here first. All right, so you see that's a massive, that's actually going to be a vessel, blood vessel. Okay, you got 2 of them there. I know it looks really flat and elongated, it's kind of weird, but that's what that is. A lot of these, okay, so, oh, that's another vessel right there in the middle, kind of funny shaped. So when you have these big segments here of nothing there with the, the really thick border, that's actually the a bronchiole. Okay, so that's where the air is going before it gets into the alveolar sac. And you can usually tell because the inside edges has kind of got that squiggly shape to it. Why don't we zoom in on that? There's a couple things to see. Okay, we're going to zoom in one more. All right, so these cells at the top are called columnar epithelial cells. Different cells have different type of names, just based upon their shape and what they do. So these are actually columnar ciliated epithelial cells. They have cilia, which moves mucus. Okay, so mucus is actually being secreted. So all of the dots here are the nucleuses of these cells that kind of make up the border. And I don't know if you can really see it. Let me find a good spot to really point something out. Oh, I guess kind of right here, actually. So on the edge, all right, I don't know if you can see it, but you see that black dot that's not supposed to be there in the middle of my screen. Maybe I can kind of use that as a marker. So if I put it right here, okay, you see this little segments. Man, that is not showing up very good. All right, I'm actually going to look for a different spot because I don't think that's going to work very good. So these things are stained, by the way, so it brings out certain things more than others. So I'm trying to get a good image of what's called a goblet cell, but I don't think that this particular stain is really meant for that so much because I'm not really seeing one. But they're on the edges along with all of these columnar epithelial ciliated cells, and they're actually what secrete the mucus, okay? So the mucus that you cough up, that's actually where it's coming from. It's from goblet cells along the edge here. And yeah, I wish I could find a good example, but I'm just not seeing one. I'm wondering if the stain for this just isn't good for it. All right. So let's go over here a bit in one of these alveolar walls, okay? So again, the light segments is where the air is, and the walls is where the gas exchange is happening. So all of the dark stained dots there, okay? So these are type 1 alveolar cells. Okay, they just kind of make up the structure of it. There's also type 2 alveolar cells, which I really suck at being able to distinguish between them because they look so identical to me. But they're usually at the segments where different walls join together, like around this area in the center here. And they secrete surfactant, which decreases surface tension in the lung. So, if you get like punched in the gut and you get the wind knocked out of you, that's because you have a little bit of air inside your lungs, even after you've pushed out as far as you can. And you need that air because the alveoli, you don't want them to completely deflate. So when you get the wind knocked out of you, the reason why you can't breathe because you've deflated that residual air, and those sacs just like they cave inwards, and then you're trying to suck that air back in. Anyways, the surfactant that's secreted by the type 2 alveolar cells decreases surface tension just to help prevent that from happening. It's actually why infants that are born premature need to be on a ventilator. They don't have a surfactant produced yet if they're born too early. And so they're put on a ventilator to help breathe, and they're given a synthetic form of surfactant to decrease that surface tension. Let's see. Okay. I think I'm going to end that here because I'm trying really hard to not make such long videos. And I'll make another one another time. I hope you learned something, and thank you very much.